Alien school guard slapped the Deathworld girl. Then her eyes turned black. The head arbiter stepped forward, a neutral species called the Ventari, who had no stake in the conflict. Its voice echoed across the arena through translation devices. This is a formal challenge under ancient Velkan law. The rules are simple. Victory comes through submission, knockout, or surrender. Killing is forbidden and will result in immediate forfeit and prosecution. Medical teams are standing by. Do both parties understand? I understand, Hana said. Her voice sounded small in the huge space. I understand, Telvos rumbled. He was smiling, if the slight shift in his crystalline face could be called a smile. Then begin. Telvos didn't waste time. He charged immediately, his massive form covering the distance between them in seconds. He was fast for his size, faster than Hana expected. His fist came at her like a hammer. Hana didn't try to block it. Jiwoo's training kicked in and she moved sideways, letting his momentum carry him past her. His fist hit empty air where her head had been a moment before. The crowd gasped. Telvos spun, surprised. He had expected her to try to meet his strength with strength, the way most fighters did. Instead, she was already moving, staying just out of his reach. He attacked again, a series of heavy strikes that would have shattered human bones if they connected. Hana dodged and weaved, her smaller size working to her advantage. Every time he missed, his frustration grew. Stand still and fight, he roared. Hana didn't respond. She was counting his movements, learning his patterns. Telvos was strong and fast, but he fought the way someone who had never faced real danger fought. He was predictable. After 2 minutes of missing her, Telvos changed tactics. He stopped trying to hit her and started trying to corner her, using his size to control the space. It was smarter, and Hana found herself being pushed toward the arena wall. This was the moment. If she let him trap her, his strength advantage would end the fight. So she attacked. Hana moved in close, faster than Telvos expected. Her fist struck one of the weak points Tolk had shown her, a joint where his crystalline armor was thinner. The impact sent cracked spiderwebbing across his skin. Telvos bellowed in pain and swung at her wildly. This time Hana couldn't dodge completely. His backhand caught her shoulder and sent her sprawling across the arena floor. Pain exploded through her body. The crowd roared. Hana rolled to her feet, her shoulder screaming. That single hit had done more damage than she wanted to think about. She couldn't take many more like that. Telvos was holding his damaged joint, his confidence shaken. You actually hurt me. This is a fight, Hana said, breathing hard. What did you expect? He roared and charged again, but this time there was desperation in his movements. Hana let him come, waited until the last second, then dropped low and swept his legs. It was a basic move, something children learned in their first martial arts class, but it worked. Telvos crashed to the ground with a sound like breaking glass. More cracks appeared in his crystalline skin. Hana could have ended it then. She could have jumped on him, gone for his neck, used every advantage she had, but she stepped back instead, giving him time to get up. Stay down, she said quietly. You don't have to keep fighting. Telvos's compound eyes fixed on her with something that might have been hatred or might have been fear. I will not lose to a Deathworlder. He pulled something from his belt, a resonance blade, a weapon that vibrated at frequencies that could cut through almost anything. Technically legal in formal duels, but rarely used because they were lethal. The crowd went silent. The arbiters moved forward, but the rules were clear. Weapons were allowed as long as both parties had access to them. Hana had been offered weapons before the duel and had refused them. Now she was facing a blade that could kill her with a single touch. Telvos advanced slowly, the blade humming in his hand. He was being more careful now, not rushing in. I'll make this quick, he said. I'll show the galaxy what happens to Deathworlders who forget their place. Hana's mind was racing. She couldn't let him hit her with that blade. One cut would open her up and she'd bleed out in minutes. She had to disarm him, but how? Then she remembered something Vera had said. Pain is just information. Telvos lunged with the blade. Hana moved in, not away. She caught his wrist with both hands, ignoring the way her injured shoulder screamed in protest. The blade passed centimeters from her face, so close she could feel the vibrations. And then she twisted. It was a technique from Hapkido, using leverage and body mechanics instead of strength. Telvos's own momentum worked against him. His wrist bent at an angle it wasn't meant to go, and there was a sharp crack. The resonance blade clattered to the ground. Thelvos screamed. Hana didn't stop. She couldn't. She swept his legs again, and when he fell, she followed him down. Her knee went to his neck. Not hard enough to break, but hard enough to threaten. One of his arms was useless now, the wrist broken. The other was pinned under her weight. The arena was completely silent. Hana's eyes were fully black now, that ancient prey-turned-predator stare. Her face was close to his, and she could see her own reflection in his crystalline features. "Submit," she said quietly. "Never," Thelvos gasped. "I'll never submit to—" Hana increased the pressure on his neck. Not enough to crush, just enough to make breathing difficult. "I could kill you right now. Do you understand that? One more push and your neck breaks. But I'm not going to. Do you know why?" Thelvos couldn't speak. He just stared at her with terror in his compound eyes. "Because I'm not a monster. Because coming from a harsh world didn't make me evil. It made me strong enough to show mercy even when I'm angry. That's what you people never understood about Deathworlders. We don't fight because we're savage. We fight because we survived things that would have destroyed your species before they ever left their cradle world." She stood up, releasing him. Thelvos lay there gasping, his body trembling. His wrist was shattered, his crystalline skin was cracked in a dozen places, and his pride was broken completely. Hana offered her hand. The gesture shocked everyone. After everything he had done, after using a lethal weapon against her, she was offering to help him up. Thelvos stared at her hand like it was a trap. Then slowly, using his good arm, he reached up and took it. Hana pulled him to his feet. They stood there in the center of the arena. A human girl and a Velkin guard who had tried to kill her, and she didn't let go of his hand. "We don't have to be enemies," she said loud enough for the crowd to hear. "But you'll never touch me or any other Deathworlder again. Understood?" Thelvos was crying. The moisture leaked from his compound eyes and ran down his cracked crystalline face. I'm sorry. I was scared. I was taught that your kind were monsters." "I know," Hana said. "But we're not. We're just trying to survive, same as everyone else." She released his hand and turned to the arbiters. "I claim victory." The head arbiter stepped forward. "The challenge is resolved. Hana is victorious. According to Velkin law, the original case must now be reopened and investigated by neutral parties." The crowd erupted. Some were cheering, others were shouting in anger. The Velkin observers were stunned, unable to believe that their guard had lost to a human child. But in the stands, Deathworld students were standing and applauding. Vera was roaring her species' victory cry. Tolk was broadcasting everything. Jiwoo was crying with relief. And on the ESS Indomitable, Admiral Choi was smiling for the first time in days. Medical teams rushed onto the arena floor. They went to Thelvos first, his injuries more severe. But one medic approached Hana, scanning her shoulder. "You have fractures," the medic said, "and severe bruising. You need treatment." Later, Hana said. She was still standing, still holding herself upright through sheer will. Her shoulder was on fire. Her whole body was shaking with exhaustion and adrenaline crash, but she couldn't show weakness now. Kira pushed through the crowd and wrapped all four arms around Hana, careful of her injuries. "You did it. You actually did it." "We did it," Hana corrected. "All of us." Ambassador Park's message came through on every screen in the arena. "The Earth Council commends Hana's courage and restraint. We now demand a full investigation into the Deathworld protocols and immediate reform. This is not negotiable." The galaxy had seen a human fight, not with rage or savagery, but with skill and control and mercy. They had seen a Deathworlder win and then offer kindness to her defeated opponent. Everything was about to change. Alien school guard slapped the Deathworld girl. Then her eyes turned black. The morning of the duel arrived cold and quiet. Hana woke before dawn, her body already tense with anticipation. She had barely slept, her dreams filled with images of the arena, of Thelvos, of her own failure. Now she sat on her bed in the darkness, trying to calm her racing heart. Kira was already awake, preparing breakfast with all four arms. "You need to eat," she said gently. "Fighting on an empty stomach is stupid." Hana forced herself to eat rice and vegetables, though everything tasted like ash. Her stomach was a knot of nerves. In 6 hours, she would step into the arena. In 6 hours, everything would change. Across the station, Ambassador Park Daeho was in emergency meetings with the Earth Council. The situation had spiraled far beyond a simple assault case. The Deathworld protocols had been exposed, and now half the galaxy was taking sides. Some species supported the Velkin position. arguing that Deathworlders needed special restrictions for everyone's safety. Others were horrified, calling it discrimination and demanding immediate reform. "What happens if she loses?" one council member asked. Park's face was grim. "Then we withdraw from the galactic community. We bring every human home and close our borders. We can't stay in a system that treats our children this way. And if she wins? Then we have leverage. We push for complete reform of the protocols. We make sure this never happens again to any species." Back at the academy, Admiral Choi was watching the preparations from his ship. He had offered to send military trainers to help Hana, but she had refused. She wanted to do this herself, to prove that humans didn't need military might to achieve justice. He respected that even if it scared him. His tactical officer approached. "Admiral, we're detecting military vessels entering the system. Vulcan Empire ships." Choi's jaw tightened. "How many?" "3 cruisers. They're taking up positions near the academy." It was a show of force, a reminder that the Vulcan still had power here. But Choi had prepared for this. "Signal the fleet. Have them match the Vulcan positions but maintain distance. No aggressive actions. We're here to observe, nothing more." The officer saluted and left. Choi turned back to the view screen, looking at the academy. Somewhere in there, a 17-year-old girl was preparing to fight for justice. He had commanded thousands of soldiers, had fought in dozens of battles, but he had never felt more helpless than he did right now. In the academy gym, Hana was training for the last time. Jiwoo was with her, calling out combinations and techniques. They moved together like a dance, strike and block, advance and retreat. "Remember," Jiwoo said, breathing hard. "He's going to try to end it quickly. He's bigger and stronger. If it becomes a battle of raw power, you lose. So what do? You make him tired. You make him frustrated. You wait for him to make a mistake and then you end it." Jiwoo wiped sweat from her face. "And Hana? Don't hold back. I know you don't want to hurt him, but this isn't practice. If you hesitate, he'll hurt you." Vera arrived next, carrying her species' traditional pre-battle drink. It smelled awful, like fermented plants and minerals. "This will help with pain tolerance," she said. "It's what Vrexian warriors drink before combat." Hana took the cup and drank it in one gulp. It burned going down, but almost immediately she felt her senses sharpen. The pain in her muscles from days of training faded to a dull background noise. "In my culture," Vera said quietly, "we have a saying. Pain is the teacher, endurance is the lesson. Your body will want to quit before your mind does. Don't listen to it." Tolk appeared with a small device. "I've been studying Vulcan anatomy," he said in his crystalline voice. "Their skin looks like armor, but it has weak points. Here, here, and here." He showed Hana diagrams on his tablet. "Joints are vulnerable. The neck area is thinner. If you hit these points with enough force, you can immobilize him without causing permanent damage." Hana studied the diagrams carefully, memorizing the weak points. She didn't want to kill or permanently injure Thelvos. She just wanted to win. 2 hours before the duel, Dean Vorath made a public statement. It was broadcast across the Academy network and sent to every major news outlet. "The challenge between Guard Officer Thelvos and student Lee Hana will proceed according to ancient legal tradition. However, I want to make it clear that the Galactic Scholarium stands by its security officers. The Deathworld protocols exist for the safety of all students, and we will not be swayed by emotional appeals or political pressure." The statement was a mistake. It made the Academy's position clear. They would rather defend discrimination than admit wrongdoing. The backlash was immediate and fierce. Species that had been neutral now condemned the Academy. Even some Vulcan officials spoke out, embarrassed by their own government's stance. Hana watched the statement with her friends gathered around. "He's not going to make this easy," she said. "We didn't expect him to," Tolk replied. "But we have everything documented. Win or lose today, the evidence is out there. The truth will spread." 1 hour before the duel, Hana was alone in her room, changing into the simple combat suit that was required for the arena. It was form-fitting and flexible, offering no protection but allowing full range of motion. She looked at herself in the mirror. The bruise on her face had faded to a yellow-green color, but it was still visible. She looked tired, scared, and very young. She was 17 years old and about to fight a trained security officer in front of the entire galaxy. What was she doing? There was a knock on the door. Kira entered, followed by Jiwoo, Vera, and Tolk. They didn't say anything at first. They just stood there with her, offering silent support. Finally, Kira spoke. Whatever happens today, you're not alone. We're with you, all of us. Every Deathworld student in the galaxy is watching, Vera added. You're fighting for all of us. And we're not going to let them forget it, Tolk said. I've sent the documentation to 200 news outlets. The truth is spreading. Jiwoo stepped forward and hugged Hana tightly. You're stronger than you think. Trust your training. Trust yourself. Hana felt tears threatening but pushed them back. She couldn't cry now. She had to be strong. 30 minutes before the duel, she walked to the arena. The corridors were empty. Every student, every teacher, every staff member was already there, waiting. The entire galaxy was watching through holocast. She reached the entrance to the arena and paused. Through the doors, she could hear the murmur of thousands of voices. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. Admiral Choi's message came through on her personal device one last time. Show them why Earth survived. Hana took a deep breath. She thought about her parents on Earth, about the billions of humans who had fought and struggled and refused to quit for hundreds of thousands of years. She thought about the students here who were counting on her. She thought about Thelvos's hand striking her face and Dean Voreth dismissing her pain. Her eyes shifted to black, not from fear but from determination. She pushed open the doors and walked into the arena. The noise hit her like a physical force. Thousands of aliens in the stands, all of them watching her. The arena was a circle of smooth floor surrounded by barriers, with neutral arbiters standing at designated points. The lighting was bright, harsh, leaving nowhere to hide. Thelvos was already there, standing on the opposite side. He looked confident, his crystalline skin reflecting the lights. He was massive, powerful, and sure of his victory. He had no idea what was coming. Alien school guard slapped the Deathworld girl. Then her eyes turned black. The ESS Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Veltara system. It was humanity's first deep space warship, and it looked nothing like the sleek, elegant vessels that the other species used. It was brutal and functional, covered in armor plating and weapon systems, designed by engineers who had grown up watching their ancestors fight wars across Earth's surface. On the bridge, Admiral Choi Minho stood with his hands behind his back, watching the galactic scalarium grow larger on the view screen. He was old for a military officer, with gray hair and a face lined by decades of service. He had fought in the border wars back on Earth, had seen things that still woke him up at night. Now he was here to make sure no one hurt another human child. Admiral, his communications officer said, the Academy is requesting we state our intentions. Tell them we're here to observe the duel. Nothing more. Choi's voice was calm, but everyone on the bridge knew what the ship's presence really meant. It meant Earth was done being polite. Back at the Academy, Hana was in the library, surrounded by tablets and data screens. She had been researching for hours, her eyes burning from the strain. Kira brought her food that she barely touched. What are you looking for? Kira asked. Proof, Hana said. Voreth said something about cultural differences and different rules. I want to know what he meant. She found it buried deep in the Academy's founding documents, in a section labeled Special Regulations for High-Risk Species. The language was careful, almost gentle, but the meaning was clear. Students from Class 10 or higher Deathworlds had fewer protections under Academy law. They could be searched without cause. They could be disciplined more harshly. They had no right to appeal certain decisions. The regulations were collectively called the Deathworld Protocols. Hana read through them with growing horror. Everything Thelvos had done was technically legal under these rules. The random searches, the different treatment, even the physical discipline was allowed under certain circumstances. This can't be real, she whispered. This is discrimination. This is wrong. How old are these rules? Kira asked, reading over her shoulder. Hana checked the date. 300 years. They were created by the Velkin Empire when they controlled this sector. The Velkin had written these rules because they were afraid. Their species had evolved on a paradise world where nothing ever threatened them. When they first encountered species from harsh worlds, species that had been shaped by violence and scarcity and constant struggle, they panicked. They couldn't compete with that kind of evolutionary pressure. So instead of adapting, they created rules to suppress potential rivals, and those rules had never been removed. Hana copied all the files and sent them to Ambassador Park. Then she sent them to every major news outlet in the galaxy. If she was going to fight, the whole universe would know what she was fighting against. That evening, a student she didn't know approached her in the common area. She was human with dark hair and nervous eyes. She looked barely old enough to be here. "My name is Kim Jiwoo," the girl said quietly. "I'm a freshman. I've been hiding that I'm human." Hana stared at her. "What do you mean?" "My genetic profile says I'm mixed species. Part human, part Altarian. It's not a lie, but it's not the whole truth either. I'm mostly human. I was scared of how people would treat me if they knew." She looked ashamed, and Hana felt a wave of sympathy. "You don't have to hide anymore." "I know. That's why I'm here. I want to help. I want to stand with you." 2 more students joined them, Vera the Vrexian and a Litharian named Tolk who looked like living crystal. Tolk had been quietly recording instances of abuse for years, documenting everything with meticulous care. "We're with you," Vera said. Her voice was like gravel. "Whatever you need," they formed a plan. While Hana prepared for the duel, the others would work on exposing the Deathworld protocols. They would gather testimony from every student who had been mistreated. They would build a case so strong that even the Velkan Empire couldn't ignore it. But first, Hana had to win. Training became her focus. The academy had a gym that was empty late at night, and that's where she went. Jiwoo came with her. The younger girl was a martial artist, trained in Taekwondo and Hapkido since she was 5. "Show me what you know," Jiwoo said. They sparred for hours. Hana had basic self-defense training from school on Earth, but Jiwoo was on another level. She moved like water, every motion efficient and precise. "You're thinking too much," Jiwoo said after throwing Hana for the 3rd time. "Thelvos is bigger and stronger than you. You can't fight his strengths. You have to use yours." "What are my strengths?" "You're human. You have better endurance than almost any species in the galaxy. You can take more pain. You can keep going when they quit. And you're smarter than he is." Vera joined their training sessions, teaching Hana techniques from her own world. "Pain is just information," she said. "It tells you you're hurt, but it doesn't stop you unless you let it. On my world, children learn to fight through pain. It's how we survive." The 3 of them trained together, and slowly Hana began to understand. This wasn't about being the strongest. It was about being the smartest, the most adaptable, the one who refused to quit no matter what. Meanwhile, Thelvos was making things worse for himself. He had been emboldened by the Dean's support, convinced that he was in the right. He started harassing other Deathworld students openly, daring them to challenge him. He posted messages on the Academy network calling Hana a savage, saying she would show her true violent nature during the duel. What he didn't realize was that every word he spoke was being recorded. Every action was being documented. He was building the case against himself. On the 2nd night before the duel, Hana couldn't sleep. She stood at the window of her room, looking out at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, 40 light years away. Her parents were there, probably worried sick about her. Kira came to stand beside her. "Are you scared?" "Yes," Hana admitted. "I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to prove that humans are violent." "You're not proving that. You're proving that humans protect each other. That's different, is it?" "Yes, violence for violence's sake is savage. Violence to protect the innocent is justice." Hana thought about that for a long time. Maybe Kira was right. Maybe this wasn't about proving humans weren't dangerous. Maybe it was about proving they were dangerous for the right reasons. The next morning, Admiral Choi sent her a message. It was short. "Show them why Earth survived." Hana read it 3 times. Then she went to train. The duel was tomorrow. The galaxy was watching. 50,000 beings had registered to watch the live broadcast. Human ships were gathering at the edge of the system. Not threatening, but present. The Velkan Empire had issued statements defending the Deathworld protocols. Other species had condemned them. Everything was building to this moment. Hana stood in the empty gym, her body tired from training, her mind clear. She thought about all the students who had been hurt here. She thought about Jiwoo, hiding her heritage out of fear. She thought about Vera's scars and Tekka's shame. She thought about the look on Thelvos's face when he hit her. Her eyes turned black in the empty room, that ancient reflex triggering. But this time it didn't scare her. It reminded her of what she was, a survivor from a world that tried to kill everything on it. descended from people who had looked at a hostile universe and decided to conquer it anyway. Tomorrow she would step into that arena. And win or lose, the galaxy would finally understand what humans really were. Alien school guard slapped the Deathworld girl, then her eyes turned black. Kira's room was smaller than most because Plenari didn't need much space, but she had insisted on sharing it with Hana anyway. Now Hana sat on her bed while Kira pressed a cold compress against her face. All four arms working at once. One held the compress, another checked a medical scanner. A third prepared some kind of healing gel, and the fourth patted Hana's shoulder gently. "It's swelling already," Kira said, her voice soft and musical. "You should go to the medical center." "And tell them what? That a guard hit me? They'll just say I deserved it." Hana's voice was bitter. Her face throbbed with pain and she could feel the bruise spreading across her cheekbone like spilled ink. "You have witnesses. Everyone saw it. The video is everywhere now." Hana pulled out her tablet and opened the Academy network. Kira was right. The video had spread like fire. Students were sharing it, commenting on it, arguing about it. The footage was clear. Thelvo striking her, her head snapping back, her eyes going black as she stared at him. The comments were divided. "She provoked him," one said. "Deathworlders are always looking for fights. He assaulted a student," another replied. "This is wrong no matter what species she is. Did you see her eyes? That's what I'm talking about. They're dangerous. She didn't even move. She just stood there. He's the violent one." Hana closed the tablet and lay back on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her body was still flooded with adrenaline, her muscles tense and ready for a fight that wasn't coming. This was the curse of human biology. On Earth, this response helped them survive. In space, it just made her feel sick. "I'm filing the complaint," she said finally. "Tomorrow morning. First thing." Kira's smaller eyes blinked slowly. "Do you think they'll listen?" "They have to. It's the law." But the next morning, standing in Dean Vorith's office, Hana learned that the law didn't mean what she thought it meant. The dean was Velkin, like Thelvos, and his office was decorated with crystals from his homeworld. They caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. It would have been beautiful if Hana wasn't so angry. "I've reviewed your complaint," Vorith said, his crystalline fingers tapping against his desk, "and I've spoken with Guard Officer Thelvos." "And?" Hana's bruise had turned purple overnight, spreading from her cheek to her eye. She hadn't bothered to cover it. He was maintaining order. "You were being difficult, questioning his authority. Perhaps you misunderstood his intentions due to cultural differences." Hana felt something cold settle in her stomach. Cultural differences? He hit me. He performed a corrective action on a student who was becoming aggressive. I wasn't aggressive. I was standing there. Your eyes turned black. "That's a threat display among humans, isn't it?" "It's an involuntary response. I can't control it any more than you can control your skin reflecting light." Vorith's face remained impassive. "Guard Officer Thelvos felt threatened by your display. He acted to protect himself and other students. The matter is closed." Hana stood there, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. Every instinct in her body was screaming at her to flip this desk, to show this dean exactly how threatening a human could be. But she didn't. She just turned and walked out. The video reached Earth 3 hours later. Ambassador Park Daeho was having breakfast in his quarters on the diplomatic station when his aide burst in, tablet in hand. "Sir, you need to see this." Park set down his coffee and watched the video. Then he watched it again. Then he called the Korean government, then the Earth Council, then the Human Military Command. Within an hour, every human official in the galaxy had seen it. Within 2 hours, Earth issued a formal statement. It was short and direct. A human child was assaulted by an authority figure at the Galactic Scholarium. We demand immediate justice. If this matter is not resolved within 1 week, Earth will withdraw from the galactic community and recall all human students from alien institutions. The galaxy had never seen humans make demands before. They were the newcomers, the primitives from the scary Deathworld who should be grateful to be included at all. This was different. This was humans showing teeth. Back at the academy, things were changing rapidly. A Vrexian student named Vera, built like a tank with scales instead of skin, found Hana in the library. "I need to show you something," she said. She pulled up her shirt. Scars crossed her back in neat lines. "The guards did this last semester. They said I was being undisciplined." I never reported it because I thought no one would care. A small Korthian girl named Tekka approached next. Her people looked almost human, but with gray skin and larger eyes. They make us sit in separate sections during assemblies. They say it's for everyone's safety, but it's really just to shame us. More students came forward, all of them from Deathworlds, all of them with stories of abuse, discrimination, humiliation. The Academy had been doing this for years, maybe decades. They had gotten away with it because Deathworld species were rare in the galaxy, and when they complained, no one listened. Hana sat in her room that night with her tablet, reading through hundreds of messages. Students she had never met were telling her their stories, sharing their pain. Kira sat beside her, quietly offering support. "This is bigger than me," Hana said finally. "This isn't just about Thelvos hitting me. It's about how they treat all of us. What are you going to do?" Hana pulled up the Galactic legal database. She had been studying it for 2 years, learning every rule and regulation. If the dean wouldn't give her justice, she'd find another way. She found it 3 hours later, buried in ancient Velkan law that was technically still valid. The right of challenge. If a civilian was assaulted by an official, they could challenge that official to a formal duel. If the civilian won, the case would be reopened and investigated by neutral parties. If they lost, the matter was closed forever. It was an old law from back when the Velkan were still a warrior culture. They rarely used it anymore because their society had become peaceful. But it was still legal. Hana stared at the screen for a long time. A duel meant fighting. It meant potentially hurting someone. It went against everything she had been trying to prove about humans, that they weren't violent monsters, but it was also the only path to justice. She sent the formal challenge to Thelvos that night. The guard had 24 hours to accept or refuse. If he refused, he would be dishonored according to his own culture's laws. The next morning, his acceptance came through. The duel was set for 3 days. The entire galaxy would be watching. Kira held Hana's hand. "You don't have to do this." "Yes," Hana said quietly. "I do. For Vera. For Tekka. For every Deathworlder who's been hurt here." Her eyes were brown and calm, but somewhere deep inside, something old and primal was waking up. Humans had survived ice ages and predators and plagues. They had climbed their way to the top of Earth's food chain through determination and adaptability, and sheer stubborn refusal to quit. Thelvos had no idea what he had agreed to. Alien school guard slapped the Deathworld girl. Then her eyes turned black. The corridors of the Galactic Scholarium stretched endlessly in every direction, their walls made of some material that shifted between blue and purple depending on the light. Hana walked through them with her bag slung over one shoulder, trying not to think about the test she had tomorrow. Mathematics was the same across the galaxy, apparently, and she was still bad at it. She had been at the Academy for 2 years now. 2 years of being the only human among thousands of alien students. 2 years of whispers following her everywhere she went. 2 years of proving that Earth wasn't what they thought it was. The other students gave her space as she walked. Not all of them, but enough. The Plenari were kind, with their forearms and gentle voices. The Letharians were curious, asking her endless questions about her death world. But the Velkan always watched her with their crystalline faces reflecting light like mirrors, their expressions unreadable but their discomfort obvious. Hana turned a corner and nearly walked into Guard Officer Thelvos. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, his body covered in the same crystalline structure that all Velkan had. It looked like armor, but it was actually his skin, grown over millions of years of evolution on a peaceful world where nothing ever tried to hurt anything else. His eyes were compound like an insect's, and they fixed on Hana with something that might have been suspicion. "Stop," he said. His voice was like rocks grinding together. Hana stopped. This was the 3rd time this week. "Yes, guard officer?" "Random security check. Show me your student identification." She reached into her bag slowly, making sure her movements were obvious. The first rule of being human in space was simple. Never make sudden movements. She pulled out her ID card and handed it to him. Thelvos examined it for a long time, much longer than necessary. The card had her photo, her name, her student number, her species classification. That last part always made people pause. Species human, Homo sapiens. Origin world Earth, Class 12, Deathworld. "Your bag," Thelvos said. "Open it." Hana felt something tighten in her chest. "This is the 3rd time you've stopped me this week." Is there a reason I'm being targeted? The guard's crystalline face didn't move, but his voice changed. Are you questioning my authority? I'm questioning if this is legal. The student rights document says random checks have to be actually random. 3 times in 1 week isn't random. Other students had stopped in the corridor now watching. A few were recording on their devices. Hana could see her roommate Kira at the end of the hall, her forearms clutching her own bag, her large eyes wide with concern. Thelvo stepped closer. He towered over her, and Hana had to tilt her head back to look at his face. Deathworlders don't have the same rights as civilized species. You should remember your place. The words hit her like cold water. She had heard rumors about different rules for students from harsh worlds, but never directly, never to her face. What did you say? You heard me. Your kind are dangerous. You come from a world of savages and you bring that violence here. I'm doing my job keeping everyone safe from you. Hana's hands were shaking now, but not from fear. It was adrenaline, pure and simple, flooding her system the way it had flooded the systems of her ancestors when they faced predators on the African plains. Her heart rate increased. Her muscles tensed. Her breathing became shallow. I've never hurt anyone here, she said quietly. I followed every rule. I've been a model student. Because we keep you in check, Thelvo said. Without us, you'd show your true nature. He reached out and grabbed her bag, yanking it off her shoulder. Books and tablets spilled onto the floor. Another student gasped. Kira started forward, but another Velkin guard held her back. Hey! Hana bent down to pick up her things. You can't just... She didn't see the strike coming. Thelvos's hand connected with the side of her face with a sound like a crack of thunder. Hana's head snapped to the side and she stumbled, catching herself against the wall. Pain exploded across her cheek, sharp and bright. She could taste blood in her mouth. The corridor went absolutely silent. Hana straightened slowly. Her hand was pressed to her face and she could feel the heat already spreading where the bruise would form. Something was happening inside her. Something old and primal. Her vision sharpened. The pain faded to a dull background noise. Every muscle in her body was coiled and ready. She looked up at Thelvos. Her eyes had changed. The brown of her irises had disappeared, swallowed by pupils that dilated until they were completely black. It was a human response to extreme stress or threat, a remnant from when their ancestors hunted in the dark. It made them able to see better, react faster, fight harder. But to the aliens watching, it looked like something demonic. Thelvos took a step back. His crystalline skin was reflecting the corridor lights in a way that suggested fear, though Hana didn't know enough about Velkin biology to be sure. Around them, students were backing away. Someone whispered something in a language Hana didn't know. She could kill him. The thought came unbidden, cold and factual. His species had evolved without predators, without violence. They were fragile compared to humans. She could see the weak points in his structure, the places where his crystalline skin was thinner. She could end this right now, but she didn't. Instead, Hana bent down and picked up her belongings one by one. Her hands were steady now, perfectly calm. She put everything back in her bag, zipped it closed, and slung it over her shoulder. The entire time, she didn't take her eyes off Thelvos. I'm filing a formal complaint, she said. Her voice was level, controlled. You just assaulted a student in front of witnesses. You threatened me, Thelvos said, but his voice shook. Your eyes! You were going to attack. I didn't move, Hana said. I didn't speak. I didn't threaten you. But you hit me, and everyone here saw it. She walked past him, her shoulder brushing his arm. He flinched. The other students parted for her like water, none of them willing to get close. Kira hurried after her, her forearms fluttering with concern. Behind them, students were already uploading the video to the Academy network. Within minutes, it would spread across the station. Within hours, it would reach Earth. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you hurt a human child. Hana's eyes slowly faded back to brown as she walked, but her hands were still shaking. Not from fear, from the effort of holding back.